still figuring out who was behind all this. And only one name was mentioned by all of them: President Ju. Kim now couldn't bear the anger and just wanted to get his hands on the culprit who was behind all this. But he realizes that his priority should be finding her daughter first. After he was gone, the boss guy woke up. He was pretending to pass out all this time. He was wondering what happened to Kangmin when he sees Burger closing the freezer's door. Burger locks him inside because he had tried to kill him. The boss apologized and also threatened him, but he didn't open the door. He was afraid that President Ju was on his way there, and if he finds him, he would be dead. Just when he was about to give up, the door behind him opens. He was thrilled, but what he saw outside completely changed his excitement into despair. Because the one who opened the door was Director Nam. The boss was terrified and wondered why he was there. Director Nam orders him to open his mouth so he could break his teeth again like he did last time. Outside, Kim was running around looking for Minji, calling her name. Minji was running for her life when she realizes that his dad was calling her. But because of the rain, it was hard to hear and she thought it was just her imagination, because there was no way his father would come there. Kim climbs to the containers and screams her name as loud as he could, but because of the rain, it was impossible for her to hear him. Just then, he sees Minji climbing up the hill to get to the road, and she successfully finds the road. She asks for help from the people passing by, but they think she was a scammer and passed by her, leaving her in complete disbelief. Kim runs to the road as fast as he could, and when he reaches the road, he was shocked. On the other side, Director Kim was pulling out the boss's teeth one by one as he had done before. The boss used to walk under some local gangster and was pretty famous for his job. But his boss betrayed him for profit. But he survived the fall and went after his boss. He told him that he was ordered to do that by President Ju. He killed the boss and became the new boss. After a few days, he gets a call from President Ju and he wanted to meet him. The boss immediately recognized that he was the one who had given the order to kill him. The boss talks to him rudely, cursing him to his face. That ticks off President Ju and he calls him a wild dog, and that he knows how to tame a wild dog like him. He orders his men to bring the pot, which was filled with hard-boiled potatoes. They pulled out all his teeth and made him eat the hard-boiled potatoes. That's how crazy they are. When the boss couldn't bear the pain, he agreed to obey them from that point forward. He started to live like a dog and did whatever the president demanded him to do. And now in the present, after torturing him for some time, Director Nam told him that the president still wanted to give him another chance and asked him if he would comply this time. They were going to use him as a scapegoat for this incident. Not only that, they were going to get rid of all the opposing politicians with whom they didn't get along. The director thought all of this in the midst of all this chaos. The boss laughs at him and asks him if he knows what life tastes like. Director Nam orders his men to stop him as he was about to commit suicide, but it was too late. He had already bitten his tongue. While dying, he told the director that the girl was alive and her father was following her. Before he could finish his sentence, Director Nam punches him in anger and orders his men to look for the girl and her father. On the road, when Kim arrived there, she was already gone and was nowhere to be found. She got a lift from someone, and that someone was none other than President Ju himself. Kim realizes that if he wanted to find her sooner, he would need some help. He calls someone and asks him if his license to kill was still valid. License to kill is the situation that gives the individual in the country the privilege of being exempted from murder charges. As Kim was running on foot to the location, Hansu comes there on a scooter. Kim fills him in on the details and Hansu told him that they should get out of there as a strong storm was coming. And we see the detective, who was rescued. He was super pissed and lashed out at his subordinates for being so relaxed and orders them to search for them. In an isolated place in the mountains, they clean her up and presented her in front of the president. President Ju asks her what happened to her, to which she replies that she only remembers waking up inside the freezer and meeting the boss who was trying to kill her. Then Ju goes on to ask her if she was friends with Hyori. She started fumbling her words and just said that they were not on best of the terms. The president started rambling about how much he loved her daughter, and he would do anything, cover up anything to save her. He told her himself that her daughter tried to kill her. That sent chills down her spine. She was terrified. He knew that she was trying to deceive him. Then inside the car, he knew that she was pretending to be asleep. Seeing her trying to deceive him, He perceives her as a bigger threat than he had originally thought and orders his men to take care of her. She begs him to forgive her and starts calling her dad for help. The guy was about to inject her with a lethal injection when someone rings the doorbell. President Ju was shocked because no one knows about this location. It was Detective, who was also looking for Kim's daughter, and they tracked her down there. When they didn't open the gate, they forced their way inside, breaking the door. The bodyguards there try to stop them, but he told them he was from the government and demands to get inside. All this time, the other detectives were keeping an eye on all of them. That's how they got he before Kim and Hansu. They assumed that he was looking for his only daughter, and if they get to her before Kim, they could catch Kim this time. President Ju was watching all this from the top. They aggressively come inside and start racking the place, while President Ju was still not fazed and was acting with calm. President Ju asks him what position he was on, and that ticks off the detective. The other officers inform him that there was no one inside. The detective orders them to just wait because, from the National Special Mission Bureau, the 6 gold stars were on their way. As they arrive at the location, the one waiting for them was Director Nam. One of them tries to get him out of the way but gets beaten up instead. One more of them attacks him and meets the same fate as the other guy. And now it was the old man's turn to show his strength. Inside the house, the detective mentioned that he still didn't have a warrant, but that wouldn't matter after they were done with them. Just then, the old guy enters the house, and the detective was shocked because the one who was behind him was directing him. He alone manages to defeat all the 6 gold stars on his own. The president told the detective how he fears nothing. Outside the house, inside the jungle, Kim and Hansu were watching all this. They knew that the detective would go after Minji if he failed to catch them. So they followed him and arrived at this location. Now that they were Hansu asks him how he was planning to get her out of there. To which Kim replies that there was only one way. The way they used to operate before. As they were about to get to the mission, Hansu stops him. We see that one of the 6 gold stars was entering the house from the back door. The detective was lashing out at President Ju for interfering with their investigation. Just then, one of the other detectives informs him that the warrant was cancelled and the Vice Minister of South Korea wanted to have a talk with him. After listening to the Vice President, the detective realizes that they were all in cahoot in this matter. He was frustrated at the system and warns President Ju that he would definitely come back for him. He gives the order to the officers to return. As they get inside the car, the president and the others kept staring at them until the end. The detective orders the officers to get out of there naturally. He was being so cautious because he had managed to get Minji out of there. Just then, one of the bodyguards informs them about this. They try to stop them, but it was too late. They were already out of their reach. Director Nam was surprised because they were weak and he had definitely taken all of them down. The detective mentions that they were top in their own field. He never said that they were good at fighting. Their objective was complete and they took what they had come for. The 6 gold stars are more suited for search and secret operation than all battle. Now what had occurred from Minji's perspective. The president had ordered the team leader to take her underground and wait there until he gives him the signal to come out. When Minji opens her eyes, she finds a different guy, one of the 6 gold stars. She was grateful for them and expresses her gratitude. But she soon realizes that these guys were no better than the others and her situation was still the same if not worse. The guy choked her and made her faint. The detective compliments him on being like them now. Inside the other car, inside which the rest of the 6 gold stars were, we see a figure behind them. It was none other than Kim himself. He was ready to take them down. The director detective told them to not pick up any external calls because this was a big and sensitive matter which involves President Ju and Code 66. One of the 6 gold stars asks the senior what was so special about Code 66 that everyone was so worked up. The senior told him that it was an arrangement with North Korea. It was the proud North who consulted them first about this. The North had one condition: to hand over Code 66 to them. The number of official kills done by the Northern military under Code 66 was 49. That is why the North was so eager to get their hands on him. The senior told the guy that it was already 2 times, an attempted assassination on the North's supreme leader. The guy was shocked because they only knew about the first one. The first assassination attempt was during his time as a soldier. The second time was when he wanted to get discharged and go back to the North to meet his wife and his daughter. The officer was ready to discharge him, but on one condition, and the condition was to kill the supreme leader of the North. The other gold stars were shocked to hear this, but one of them wasn't moving. When the other guy tries to wake him up, he also gets strangled by Kim, but the guys in front had still not noticed him. After strangling both of them, Kim attacks the rest of the two in the front seat. Seeing the car acting weird all of a sudden, the other officers try to contact the directing detective, but his phone was official. Kim uses the walkie-talkie to contact the detective and threatens to kill him if he even touches her strands of hair. But the detective was confident because they were already at the headquarters. He mocks Kim, saying how he managed to take his daughter under his nose and he couldn't do anything about it. But the detective was surprised to hear that he still hadn't given up, even though they were already inside the HQ. He ordered to increase the amount of security both inside and outside, and put the target on the lowest floor of the interrogation room, and he would personally watch over her one-on-one. He was also curious to see what Kim would do to rescue his daughter. We see Hansu, who was hiding below their car all this time, and he was the reason why Kim was confident that he would save her. The headquarters was in an uproar. There was a level security. They take Minji to the lowest floor to interrogate her. When she wakes up, she freaks out, finding herself tied to a chair. She told them that they were mistaken and she was not whoever they were looking for. The detective calls her by her name, and that surprises Minji. He asked her if she knew what kind of man his father was and what was his real identity. She told him that her father was just a regular person and he had nothing to do with anything bad. The detective gets impatient and told her that her father was a really famous spy. He was so well known that even other countries were keeping an eye on him. That's why he couldn't take any actions on his own, otherwise a spy from the North would come for him. He was silent for 19 years, but suddenly he is running around wreaking havoc. They didn't know the reason for his actions, but the mess he was making in the process was no joke and couldn't be ignored. He asks him if she knows anything about why President Ju was involved in this mess. She told him that she had a fight with his daughter. The detective was so furious to know that he was doing all this because of some kid's fight. He thinks of him as a dangerous guy who couldn't control his emotion. So, he orders the security to shoot him by mistake. Just then a soldier comes there and told the detective that the vice minister was looking for him and he was angry. After he was gone, Minji thinks about the things he said when she sees someone outside. The guy asks him if she saw something and she denies it. He goes outside to look around as he was sure that she had seen something. Hansu was hanging to the ceiling right above him, and when he realizes someone was there, Hansu attacks him immediately. After he was done with him, he goes to the room where Minji was. He takes her with him. She was curious to know who he was and she was about to ask him. He closes her mouth and hides from the soldiers, only to get spotted by another group of soldiers. But before they could even react and inform the others about them, Hansu attacks them and takes care of all of them in just a few seconds, not letting any of them escape. On the other hand, the voice minister was lashing out at the detective for causing all this fuss and even kidnapping a civilian in this mess.